Hello everybody, in this video we are going to continue our conversation with how to use the quadratic formula to identify how many zeros a quadratic function has and the specific zeros of that function. So if you saw the previous video, we actually had a little bit of a mix-up. Our example for the one solution and two solutions were actually mixed up. So we were actually, when we tried to do the one solution example, it ended up being 2, because when we did the discriminant, it had a positive number. And so a positive number tells us it's 2 solutions or 2 x-intercepts. So even though this one says 2 solutions, this is actually our one solution. So with that being said, let's go ahead and start working this one out. So the first thing I'm going to point out that the left side is in standard form because we have an x squared in the front, an x in the middle, and a constant at the end. But it's not equal to 0. So let's go ahead and move these numbers to the opposite side, combine them with their like terms so we can identify our a, b, and c. So let's start with this -5. Let's change it to a positive 5x. Because it only has an x, we're going to combine it with the 5x in the middle. This is a positive 12. It is also our constant because it has no variable. So we're going to subtract it, and we're going to subtract it from the other constant in the problem. Okay. And so from here we have x squared plus 10x, and then 37 minus 12 is going to give us a positive 25. We're going to set it equal to 0 because those are no longer here. Our a value is the understood 1. Our b value is the 10. Our c value is the 25. So if you remember from the other examples, we're going to start with the discriminant. The discriminant is that b squared minus 4ac. It does not include the square root. So let's do that part first. So our b is being squared. So b is 10. So I'm going to put it in parentheses and raise it to the second power. And then I'm going to say minus 4 because that's part of the formula. And then we're going to multiply a and c. So our a is a 1. Our c is a 25. All right. So we know 10 times 10 is 100. I'm going to bring down the minus, and if you do 4 times 1 times 25, it gives you another 100. 100 minus 100 is 0. Okay? So that automatically tells us 0 is not a negative number, so we can't say no solution. It is not a positive number, so we can't say 2 solutions. So it is a 0, which means we're only going to have one solution. And if it has a 1 solution, then that means that our quadratic function is touching the x-axis at the vertex. That's the only possibility we can have. So now that we know that this is 0, then we're just going to take our a, our b, and our c and plug it in and simplify this one fraction. And so for this one, we're going to say x is equal to the opposite of b. So if my b is a 10, the opposite would be a negative 10. There's a plus and a minus, the square root. We know that all of this became 0. We're going to say over 2 times a, which is 1. And then from here, I'm going to simplify it down a little bit more. So negative 10, if you take the square root of 0, it's just 0. And we're going to put it over 2, because 2 times 1 is 2. Now, one of the things that I want you to realize when you do the 0, we can split this into 2, to a negative 10 plus 0 over 2, and x is equal to negative 10 minus 0 over 2. Now, the reason I'm asking you to do this is because we normally have to split it if it were any other number. We can do the same thing with the 0. But you're going to realize we're going to end up with the same thing. Because negative 10 plus 0 is still negative 10 over 2, which gives us negative 5. If you do negative 10 minus 0, it's still negative 10 over 2, which is equal to negative 5. Both of these numbers are exactly the same. So we don't have two different answers. We only have one answer because both of these are the same. And so that means that when I graph this quadratic function, it's going to touch the x-axis at -5 one time. So I'm going to actually go over to Desmos, and I'm going to type this in so I can show you that it only has one solution. Now before I go to Desmos, I do want to remind you that we type in the equation that is equal to 0. And our x-intercept is going to be -5. Okay, so I'm going to pause this and we're going to go to Desmos because it's just a little bit easier to manipulate that graph. But know that you can also use your graphing calculator. Alright, so if you're not familiar with Desmos, this is just an online graphing calculator, and it's a little bit easier to manipulate the graph and kind of move in and zoom out and look at specific points. And this is also something that you can use on your STAR tests. You will be allowed to use Desmos. So notice that I typed this in to this side right here, and in order to get the exponent, you're hitting Shift-6. So you can come up here and put an exponent. All right, so as you see, I'm going to shift over this graph. You can zoom in if you want to. And notice that it does cross in one place right here, and it crosses at -5, which is also my vertex. So if you look at this graph, you can see that it only touches in one place, and it continues to go up indefinitely. So, like I said, we had a little confusion when we were looking at our graphs, when we were looking at our notes for our equations, but now that you know that there's a 1 solution because it's a 0, you know that there's a 2 solutions if your discriminant is a positive number, and then you know it's a no solution because it's a negative number. So my suggestion is set it up in standard form, make sure you have a 0, so you can then use your A, your B, and your C value to find the discriminant. So you know whether you need to keep on going, whether you need to simplify, or whether you need to split and then simplify. But I'm going to recommend to use your calculator to check your work, or to use Desmos online calculator to check your work as well. I hope that all of these examples have helped you understand a little bit more about what the quadratic function formula does, what the discriminant does, and how it helps you find your answer. Okay? I'll see you guys in the next videos.